So I saw Detective Pikachu not too long ago, and I gotta say, it's a freaking weird movie. It's a good weird, which means that it's not bad, so it's automatically not like other video game films. Loosely based off of the video game of the same name, Detective Pikachu takes the Pokemon world and makes it darker and edgier, because that's what all good films do nowadays, right? Now, when I say it's good weird, I also do mean that it is a good film, legitimately, not like other films where it's so bad that it's good. The film doesn't really give you a good first impression with the first act, but by the second act, you're gonna get way more into it. The characters' acting gets better, their chemistry gets a lot better, the pacing of the story gets a lot faster and more exciting. By the end of the film, you're gonna end up having a great time. Not to get into any real spoilers right now, but at the very start of the film, Tim is pretty unlikable, but when Detective Pikachu himself shows up, things get a lot better, he becomes a lot more fleshed out, and he ends up working a lot better as a straight man during the whole story. Ryan Reynolds as Detective Pikachu is probably the best part of the film. He's funny, he tells a lot of jokes, he keeps things entertaining. He's no Deadpool, but he's no Green Lantern either. The other thing I'm really impressed with is the world. There's a ton of Pokemon all over the damn place. The process of transferring them from the games to the real world works pretty well. There was only one time where I didn't really think it was that convincing, and that was with the Gengar that shows up for like one scene, but it's not on screen for very long. During this review, I'm also going to be comparing the movie to the original game, because like I said, the game story is slightly adapted here. There is a lot of stuff that they keep, but at the same time, there's a lot of fluff from the game that they take out, and it works greatly to the film's benefit. For example, the mystery is overall the same. There's still the whole plot line with the Super Serum R thing, but unlike the game where it was kept pretty vaguely and all it really was meant to do is make Pokemon go mad, in this one they give it a much greater purpose and explain it a lot better. Mewtwo, who only ever showed up for like 3 scenes during the entire game and was only ever meant to be mysterious, now actually has stuff to do in the film. Granted, he doesn't really do a whole lot, at least not until the end, but he actually serves a purpose in this film. A kind of questionable purpose, but it's still pretty hilarious. If you're like me and you're one of the few people who actually played the original Detective Pikachu game, and you thought it was bland, or you didn't think it ended satisfyingly, or you thought the mystery was totally botched, you may end up liking the film a lot more. I certainly did. Funnily enough though, the movie actually did make me realize that there's a ton of filler in the game. Like, there's entire chapters, characters, and locations that are just straight up not mentioned in this. There are 9 chapters in Detective Pikachu, and only 4 of them get adapted in some way, shape, or form. Heck, even if you play the game, it can actually play with your expectations for the movie. For example, there's 3 main suspects for the villain in this movie. There's Mewtwo, which would be the most obvious one, but it's, well, that's a twist. Then there's the leader of Rhyme City, Howard Clifford, and then there's his son, Roger Clifford, who's actually a character in the game. And Roger's kind of a dick in the movie, so I was like, okay, well, I mean, this has got to be the freaking villain, right? I mean, he was the villain in the game, then why wouldn't he be the villain in the movie? Granted, I am recording this review like a month after the movie came out, so spoiling anything really doesn't matter at this point, but when you do watch the movie for the first time, it'll be pretty obvious who the villain is. In fact, you probably just figured out who the villain is just from me hearing this, so sorry. Apparently the Detective Pikachu game is going to be getting a sequel on the Switch sometime soon. Obviously it'll be based off the 3DS game's lore and all that, but part of me kind of hopes that they retain some of the themes and some of the events that happened in the movie into the game's universe. I doubt it'll happen, but heck, only time will tell. The only benefit that the game has over the movie is the fact that if you got the Detective Pikachu game, chances are you probably played the other Pokemon games in the main line. Obviously, the film is meant more for general audiences, so for people who are looking for a true magical Pokemon experience on the big screen, you're not going to get that here. You'll probably notice in trailers and in the movie itself that there are indeed a lot of Pokemon on screen. Only problem is that they only ever have like 30 Pokemon in the entire film. Like, you see this poster right here? This is like a little under half of the Pokemon that show up in the actual film. Finnekins are not among those Pokemon, so therefore I am giving this film a 0. Okay, apparently I'm not allowed to negatively rate the movie just because my favorite Pokemon isn't in it. Guess I'm gonna have to do an unbiased review of it. Great. I love those. Getting back to how the world is depicted and all that stuff, it reminds me greatly of the Super Mario Bros. Film and how it's sort of a Blade Runner type of city and they just put a bunch of game references all over the place. I was about to say that that's really uncreative, but at the same time, if you actually look at how the cities look in the Pokemon games, yeah, Granted, even though the city might not be the most original setting for a movie like this, and while the world isn't as magical or as wondrous as the Pokemon games, I still really wish that this place was real. I don't think anybody will disagree with me on that. Like, seriously, this is kind of amazing. And a lot of the props for that go to how great the Pokemon look in this film. A lot of people would probably criticize the film for how weird and uncanny a lot of the Pokemon are, but to be honest, visually speaking, for this concept, this is probably the best we'll ever get. Also, it's helpful that the main characters are so likable. Like I said, Tim ends up being really likable by the end of the film, and Detective Pikachu himself is actually a lot of fun the entire time he's on screen. Granted, there are still a lot of problems with the film, and it is a video game film, so there are a ton of flaws. In terms of movies, this isn't the best, but in terms of video game films, this is the best. If you're a Pokemon fan, I would definitely recommend it. If you're somebody that's at least interested in the games and all that stuff, I could definitely recommend it as well, although there are a lot of references to the games and to the TV show even. So just watch out for those, but if you have little to no interest in Pokemon at all, then I can't really recommend it. The film starts off weak, but it does improve as the film goes along, and then it ends up getting really crazy by the end, which does work to the film's advantage. And it is certainly better than the video game that it's based on. I give this film a solid good rating.
Stop. Oh no. He's going down hard, Tim. Should have worn a helmet.
That scene was probably my favorite in the whole film. See you next time whenever I get around to making another video. Have a good one.